So many of us are waiting for that perfect time, the perfect plan, and the moment when everything finally lines up, and then we'll take action. But what if real momentum doesn't come from big leaps at all? What if it comes from something much smaller, micro moves, done consistently over time? Welcome to the UnCeiling You podcast, the podcast where we help women take responsibility so that they don't burn out and instead build lives and careers that actually work for them. It's the idea that small, strategic actions done consistently can completely change the trajectory of your life. And here's the part most people miss. You don't do it alone. Your environment, your community, and the people you surround yourself with, they're either quietly accelerating your growth or holding it back. In this conversation with Dr. Christiane Schroeter, we break it down. Why small steps work when big plans fail, how to stay motivated when progress feels invisible, and how to intentionally build a circle that actually supports your growth. If you've ever felt stuck, discouraged, or like nothing you're doing is working, this episode will show you why that's not a failure. It's just a phase where small steps haven't compounded yet. Many of us wait for that perfect moment, that perfect plan to take that big leap. What happens if real momentum came from very small moves, micro moves that are done consistently? So my main question for you, and thank you so much for coming on to the show, Dr. Schroeter. I really appreciate it. You teach entrepreneurs, and this could be even people, leaders within a corporation, middle managers, that their success comes through petite practice, small strategic actions over time. What inspired you to come up with this framework?
Inspired me because I became my own best student and it ended up working for me. And so I basically thought, well, if it works for me that I am working full time, I have my family, I'm running my coaching business, I'm a publisher, so I write my own books, I'm a speaker, and of course I have my own podcast. So people kept asking me over and over again, how do you do it all? And I kept explaining it. And eventually I thought I need to give this a name.
So Petite Practice was born.
Petite Practice, it was the name that came after I described it to somebody. And I was like, well, I should probably just label it. And then we give this concept a name. So Petite Practice really is broken down a small step that you take towards your goal. And as I mentioned, whether that's starting a podcast, whether that's writing a book, whether that's presenting on a big stage, anything that brings out your superpower and shares it with the world, the Petite Practice will help you and get there.
That's fantastic. So this morning I was looking at a picture of myself from a year ago, and it goes straight along with this message because I really did not even know that it was happening. In fact, I was sometimes very discouraged. And this is the picture right here.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that's a raccoon I'm holding. Our next door neighbor's raccoon got out. But you could see like my face is so different.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, I don't even recognize that person. And it was a lot easier than I thought because it was happening small steps at a time.
Do you think, so that's a year ago, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever step on a scale in between? No, right?
Yes.
You did? Okay.
Every day.
Okay.
And there were times when I stepped on the scale and it would go up, it would go down, it would go up, it would stay the same, it stayed the same.
That's what I was referring to.
Yeah. And I would get so frustrated.
Yeah.
Nothing seemed to be happening, even though I was taking the steps. Can you speak maybe about that?
So the reason why I ask about the scale, because in my coaching, I'm a business and wellness coach, I frequently discourage people to step on the scale, especially on a daily basis, because it is so discouraging. Just to put this in context, right? And you can see I'm like zipping some water right here. If I drink this whole water, I'm going to be heavier afterwards. even though I
Yes.
physically didn't eat anything. I just drank water
Yeah.
because I added something to my body.
Yeah.
Now think of this. We always say you need to drink a lot.
Yeah.
So
True.
essentially what you do is when you drink, you increase your body weight. So you could work out, drink a lot, and step on a scale, and you'll be heavier. And you'll be like, why did I just work out? I even weigh more than I did before. So mentally speaking, a scale is such a very, let's just say, an inaccurate, imprecise measure of
Mhm.
what you really do with regard to your wellness, because there are so many factors that really impact your body weight that it is a very inaccurate guideline. In fact, when I wrote my dissertation, I was debating, should I use body weight? Should I use maybe hip to waist measure? Or, what I ended up using was BMI to
Mm.
measure obesity, because there are so many factors that impact our body weight that it's sometimes very challenging. But at the end of the day, I agree with you. When you do work out or when you want to lose weight or change your wellness, you stepping on a scale is just the easiest thing that everybody can have in their home.
Yeah.
So my suggestion to you would be to not do this.
I only have 13 more pounds, so I'm getting there.
I know it's a thing. What I did, because most of the scales are battery operated,
True.
you could actually take out the batteries for just a little while and put them away. And then in economics, because I have a PhD in health economics, we call it creating friction. So you're making it harder to see your body weight on the scale when you take out the batteries. You maybe put them in a different spot because you would have to retrieve the batteries to make your body weight appear again on the scale.
Mhm.
And then, of course, you have to make sure that you don't go any places like gyms or recreation centers that actually have scales, which are, by all means, why do we even have that in a
Yeah.
recreation center a scale? So you could create some friction. In general, I would think that the best thing for you to feel better is to look at pictures of yourself and
Mm.
just kind of like also associate your well-being with things you can do. For instance, maybe you run up a staircase at the very beginning and you're like, gosh, I'm like totally getting out of breath here.
Yeah.
And then you do this again after a month and you're like, hold on, this is a little easier, right?
Yeah.
And so like, it's more, why are you doing this? It's not to have some number on a scale appear,
Sure.
but it's really just to feel better and to hopefully live longer and appreciate the time that you have with your loved ones.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the day, really what matters.
Yeah, exactly. But, it was small, consistent steps, which gets us back to the whole premise of our conversations. And one of the things that I really want to stress in this particular season is that having the right people around you can also make a difference. And can you talk a little bit about how community makes a difference when you're doing your petite practice? Hey, before we go further, I want to pause on something because this is where a lot of people get tripped up. You can have the right strategy, you can take small, consistent steps, but if you're applying that effort to things that actually aren't yours, you're gonna feel stuck no matter how disciplined you are. And for a lot of women I work with, this is the hidden pattern. It's not about that they're doing too little. It's that they're caring too much. Other people's expectations, unspoken responsibilities, emotional weight that was clearly never assigned. And over time, that becomes exhaustion. And that exhaustion doesn't make sense. If you're listening to this and thinking, yeah, that might be me, I put together something that can help you see it clearly. It's called the Responsibility Audit. And it's free. It walks you through where you might be over-caring and why it's happening. You can grab it in the show notes and then come back to this episode because what we talk about next will land very differently once you've seen your own patterns.
I love this. This is like my passion. So in my dissertation, and also now in my coaching and even in my classroom, right? So I see these groups of people and my mind is always like the research agenda is happening in my mind. Essentially, if you want to turn your life around, whether that's professionally or whether that's on your wellness side, you need to interact with people that are the ideal version of what you want to be. So for instance, if you want to work out more, you can't hang out with the couch potatoes.
True.
They're not going to inspire you to get off the couch. They're going to be like, let's watch another soap opera, blah, 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 blah. It's like, that's going to require a lot of willpower. I mean, if you want to eat healthier, you can't hang out with people that hate vegetables and drinking water and go to fast food places and order food in every day because that's just not the right environment.
Yeah.
So 30% of your wellness really comes from the environment, right? So it's genetics, environment, and then of course it's how much you put into this in terms of what you eat and how you treat your body in terms of your workout, right? So it's like this 30-30-30 Venn diagram situation. So there's a lot of things you can control. And it starts with really choosing the people you hang out with. Unfortunately, what that means is you have to think a little bit about, do you have the willpower to stand up to the people when they criticize what you do, what you eat, your goals? Because if you are okay with that, then that's fine. But if you start to feel uncomfortable hanging out with people that start criticizing your lifestyle choices in terms of like, I want to lead a healthier life, then you'd have to maybe let go of those friendships because those are not the people that actually support your goals and want you to be healthier, but they are more making it harder for you. They're becoming like little rocks in the middle of the road to your wellness. So I think the environment is so important. And there's a word that's called peer pressure. And we can use it in a positive way as accountability partners, people you hang out with that all want to thrive and want to get healthier together, or peer pressure in terms of people that are more the other extreme. They want you to maybe, not necessarily change your life at all and just stay the way that you are. And they are looking at this as something like, why are you doing this right now? And so that is really what you have to think about is, what is your why? Is it something that you're doing for yourself? Well, then you have to think about how important is it to you, and that you maybe like choose a little bit of a circle that's creating a more comfortable surrounding for you to thrive with your goals.
Yes. So what is one petite practice that someone can use to help build that circle of friendships that will help them?
Well, and I love that you're saying the circle right there, because you could just create those accountability partners in such an easy way. You have maybe your family that you're living with, or your roommates, or your partners that you're living with, and you share that goal with them right there. That's your first petite practice. You verbalize it to your immediate surrounding. I call it the fan approach, right? The family, that's the F. You're thinking about a fan, right? It has these little propellers right there. The more you use your fan, the more propelled towards your goals. So you're starting with your F, with your family, and then you go into your next letter, which is your A, your acquaintances. Maybe you're sharing it on social media. I went for a walk. Oh, look here, I made this salad. Oh, I'm making a smoothie, and look, I bought a new water cup, and these like little things. It doesn't have to be anything dramatic where you are like, sharing a body weight with us or something like that.
Yeah.
Don't get too personal and comfortable. Just make it like fun and relatable, like things we can all do, right? We can all drink water and go for walks.
Yes.
And then the last thing would be your network. So maybe you put yourself out there, and there are, of course, Facebook groups, but you could even use groups like Meetup and connect with people that you don't know yet, but they become part of your new network of healthy friends, where you maybe find a group of people that likes going on nature walks, or maybe instead of like, snacking, you're picking up a new hobby, like, I don't know what, painting, or maybe listening to books, or you're joining a book club or something like that. So you need to figure out, who is it that I associate myself with in this new version of myself that becomes part of my network. So that's the N, right? So the family, the friends, the acquaintances, and then lastly, the network. And all of it is, of course, fluctuating. We always change friendships. We change whom we hang out with. We change our preferences. Even on social media, different things will pop up. But for you to figure out, does it bring you joy? Is it something that you see yourself thriving with? Or does it more like feel like when you're pulling that up, it turns you like down, it makes you sad? Because there's a lot that really goes into changing your lifestyle. And you have to think a little bit about those days when it's maybe a little bit harder.
Uh-huh.
You want the FAN to be there for you on those days when it's like, gosh, I really don't feel like doing this. And why did I get myself into this? Then you need your fan to keep propelling you forward.
Right. So even in what you do, all the different things that you do in your journey as a professor, a coach, an entrepreneur, what role has community or connection played in helping you grow?
Yeah. So just when I think about myself now, when I was in the classroom, I noticed how students changed and how I've had over 10,000 students in my
Wow.
classrooms, and how the students between starting my journey at the university and now, they're of course different because times are different and there's different technology and
Uh,
different ways of learning. What will never go away, just to put that out there, is the in-person contact, right? The best learning happens when you're actually interacting with somebody. And the best friendships happen when you actually meet somebody. And of course, your network grows when you interact with people in person as well. So that is something I noticed when I was observing the students in the classroom. I was like, I don't like the textbooks that we have. So the network, the community inspired me to start writing my books because I
oh,
thought I should write books that actually cater to the way that I teach my class and the way that I see their learning journey. So
uh,
I started writing a textbook for my students. And I basically, after class, I always jotted down some notes, Petite Practice, right? I slowly grew, and then it became a book. And then I started with my podcast, observing the same things, how my guests shared some insights. And I always asked them, what's your superpower? And then I thought, I should share that in a book too. So then I started writing my second book, Discover Your
oh,
Superpower, right there. And then I had some of my clients come back and say, oh, I would love to have like a planner that's like not electronic, but it's more like I can write things and maybe even draw things, like little Zentangles. And I thought, yeah. So that inspired me then to create my third book, the Petite Practice Planner. So
uh,
in reality, I think I'm using my community to tell me, in marketing, we call it wants and needs, what they want and what they need.
uh,
And then I cater to their wants and needs because that's really, I think, what a good teacher does. I want to help you become the best version of yourself. And so I change my teaching and my education according to how I feel I can make you the best version of yourself.
uh. That's very nice. So not everybody can teach thousands and thousands of people,
Yeah.
but how can someone intentionally create a circle of support, especially if they feel isolated or unsure how the network the right way?
Yeah. And I think in research, it really shows that over the course of your life, there are only about 150 friends that you
Oh,
ever meet, which it doesn't even sound like that much. Especially if you have like thousands of people you're friends with in Facebook and on Instagram and
uh,
LinkedIn, you're like 150. Yeah, those are like the 150 that you really consider your close friends. Like thinking about that FAN approach, those are like your friends, not your acquaintances, not your network. Those are the ones you reach out to when you're not feeling well on those days.
uh,
So what you need to realize is, even though I teach a lot of students, to me, I really want to make sure that I keep my close relationships very like I tend to it to like plants or animals, right? You brought up that picture earlier of the animal right there.
the
So
raccoon.
you need, and it starts, I mean, I can give you like 3 habits right here that will create a nice circle of friends. And those 3 petite practices are super easy. And I share them with you because that's what I do in my day-to-day life. But at the same time, it's not expensive or complicated, right? So for instance, I put all birthdays of my close friends on my calendar. And then I maybe even like sometimes create like little reminders. You know how nice it is to get a text message on your birthday? But you know how really nice it is to actually get a card on your birthday, not complicated. So in this closet here back behind me, I actually have a box with cards. So sometimes when I'm out and about, I'm like, oh, I should get some birthday cards. And then I just buy some birthday cards and I put them in the box. So I'm always ready.
Mhm.
I have birthday cards, I have my stamps in another closet, and then I just send a card, right?
Mhm.
And could even be like somebody's not feeling well and I have like a little pick me up card right there. I think that it goes such a long way to reach out to somebody and not, let them know you're thinking about them, creates a friendship and it keeps a friendship too. It's like a
Yeah.
plant and you're tending to that. So that's the first thing. I think sending cards goes a long way, not just on Christmas, but
Yes.
on birthdays or special occasions, right? And secondly, what I really do and what I think is important is that you kind of when you enjoy something, whether that's a new product, a book that you read, you share that with your friends too. And just from a place of like, oh, I just saw this and I thought about you.
Mm-hmm.
Because people ask me all the time for recommendations about books, and I'm like, oh, let me think about this. It needs to go the other way to where you actually say, I read this and I thought about you. I think that's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
You might just reach out to that person on a day when they just really needed that recommendation for that book. And again, it doesn't cost anything. You just
Right.
send them maybe a little link and say, I read this book and I tried this cream. I smelled this perfume and it reminded me of you. Who knows what it is? Like I drank this tea, something really
Yeah.
small. And then thirdly, I think sometimes it's experiences. Like you see an experience and maybe like you're going for a walk and you're like, oh, that would be so nice to do that with a friend. I call it walkie talkie.
Yeah.
The person doesn't even have to be with you. You could just even call them.
Mhm.
And if it's something that you enjoy, you could share it with somebody else and it might be double the enjoyment.
Yes. My sister does that with me all the time. I love it. That is so great. So those are three very powerful small things that we can do to really build our community. Again, petite practices. It's so simple. It doesn't have to be that big. And I love that. So you are also building a business and often you see it as an individual pursuit, but no one scales alone. The people around you matter just as much in your
Mhm.
strategy. So in your journey as an entrepreneur, how has someone supported you in your journey along the way? What are some things that you remember someone doing for you that helped you grow?
Yeah, so in my podcasting journey, I meet a lot of amazing people,
Mm.
and sometimes, and actually, some of them are my best friends, and I've never met them, to be honest with
Yeah.
you, but they're still my best friends. They're like stars that are there without actually seeing them. They are there. I know that they are there, right? And so I
Uh,
can reach out to them. And what I frequently did is, for instance, when I wrote my book, is I would take a screenshot, I would download a page from my book, and I would send it to one of my friends, and they could have been my podcasting friends. And I would say, "What do you think about this?" And then they would honestly respond, and they would say, "I don't know about this, right?" Or "I
mm,
do really like that."
yeah. Yeah.
And I think that it, especially if you are a solopreneur and an
Mhm.
author, again, I do not have a publisher. I'm all self-published, right? I do everything myself. I do my podcast editing. I do my publishing myself. All my coaching, it's me. I think especially if you are doing this by yourself, it helps to have that network, that community that you can reach out to. And of course, my husband and my children appreciate that it's sometimes not them, but it's somebody else that gives me. They're like, yes, mom, I do like that cover of the book because, gosh, covers of the book are really important. And then you're reaching out to somebody else and they're like, I don't like those colors at all. And you're like, my family said they're great.
Yeah.
So I think in my journey, my business journey, that community was tremendously important.
Yeah. So when I was writing my book, I did have a community of people around me that would comment on chapters and also comment on the covers, although not like you. I had somebody else doing the publishing and the artwork and things like that. So they allowed me to put in like what I thought. And then they had this like, we want the opportunity to show you something that you maybe never ever considered. So they put out like a picture of the book is called Unselling Your Career in Any Age. And so it was a woman standing on a road and, but she had these boring, black shoes. And I showed it to my network and they're like, man, put some spiky, sassy red shoes on, high heels on that girl. That made a big difference.
Yeah, it's small things like that you don't even think about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like in one of my books, oh, you can kind of like see it back there, right?
Oh,
The goals book,
yeah.
How to Master Your Goals. It's actually a bestseller on Amazon. But see how the goals, instead of an A, it's an Eiffel Tower. Give you a
Yeah.
knob,
Yeah.
Petite Practice, because it's a French word. And so when we came up with that, all of a sudden it was like, we got to use the Eiffel Tower in that title right there. And it's small things like that. Yeah, like I even reached out to my students, of course, and shared things in the classroom. And oh, I have to tell you this fun story too. So recently I found out I'm going to be a TEDx speaker.
Ooh.
I reached out to my students in the classroom and I shared it with them because my talk is going to it's going to be focusing on education and how education will change in the future. And so my students, the first thing that they said was, when is it? Because we want going to come.
Oh, wow. That's so great.
Well, how amazing that's going to be, speaking about your community and your support system,
Yeah.
to that the audience is also, there are some of my students in the audience right there. So I don't speak to a 1,000 people I don't know. Well, minus my 3 family members.
Yeah.
But actually 1,000 people minus, my family members and some of my students. So that would be extra special. So I think the sharing of what you do, when you do it, how you do it, and even some of the struggles is tremendously important because it makes you vulnerable and human, and it creates a little bit of a motivation for others that are on that same journey, and they don't just see the final outcome, but they see this cover picture with the black shoes, with the lady with the black shoes. That was the initial version, and now we are looking at the final version. And so I think this is so powerful to share your pivoting.
And congratulations on being a TEDx speaker. One of the other stories, and I shared this in another podcast, is that I have a friend who's working as a senior vice president, and she was talking with one of the guests that I have on a podcast. I put us together as a group just to meet one another. And this person that is a podcaster, she also has written books. She sets up retreats and things like that. And this friend who does the podcasting said something like, I used to be burned out, but I'm not anymore. I'm doing the same job, but I'm also doing these other things. And she went from burnout to not being burned out, yet she's doing all these other things. So as you're doing all of these different things, how do you not get burned out? And how do you use the Petite Practice to not be burned out?
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I would say the idea of the Petite Practice, and you will appreciate it because of your health and wellness journey that you went through. So I look at it as like a smoothie. If you think about putting a smoothie together, which is essentially just a blended beverage, which has certain ingredients in it, you can maybe sometimes judge by the color of a smoothie, like does it have greens, does it have like red fruit, etc. Is my day-to-day is a smoothie. Right? You look at the day, you're like, oh, that's a nice, vibrant color. But there are all these different elements that go in it. And it really creates it rich feeling because I'm blending it all up. I don't just only sit at the desk and I don't only, whatever, lay on the couch. I have many different elements and I blend them all together. So when I, for instance, think about taking my car and going somewhere, I'm in my head creating like a ranking of different places I need to do and different errands I need to run. So I don't want to just drive and then come back and then go there and then come back. So for instance, like today I'm doing the podcast recordings in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I'm going to be teaching a workout class, a weightlifting class, right? So I'm going to drive to campus where I teach my weightlifting class. That's kind of like I create a structure in my day to where I might be sedentary in the morning, but in the afternoon, I'm going to be weightlifting and I'm going to spend some time in a standing position showing other people how to build muscle strength and conditioning. And so I want to make sure that all of my days have a balance between standing, walking, sitting, moving, but also the different types of people I interact with. So I interact with professionals, I interact with college students, I interact with, community that come to my workout classes, because all of it is actually in my mind as like a little sponge. It's feeding ideas to what I can do next in my business. It's like I'm very fine tuning into what they say, how they act, how they react when I say something. And that actually, to me, fuels what I do in my life. So I completely agree with you that for me, the smoothie approach is fueling my life even more than what I did before when I would just do one thing.
I think that is so powerful. And it's also interesting that you say you use the word fuel. Because when I talk to other people about this, they say, I have on this wall right in front of me a lot of thank you cards for this other project that I'm doing, and it fuels me. That's good. So you're deeply committed to wellness as a foundation for leadership. How did you learn to protect your energy while staying visible and engaged? And that's related to not getting burned out.
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. Right after I had my first daughter, and we moved here to California, I went to a Zumba class, and there were 2 female instructors on the stage teaching the Zumba class. And again, I just had a baby, but I thought Zumba is kind of a fun environment to get back into moving around, and it's not like super coordinated. So I watched 2 females teach this class, and they just had so much fun. And all of a sudden I was like, this is kind of what I'm missing right now. I love being at home and I love raising my daughter, but I also love just having fun and moving my body. And again, it's not like a certain protocol you need to follow. And it's essential for me to create this me time to be a better mom. And it just really clicked. And then I thought I should be certified fitness instructor and inspire others, just like what these 2 amazing ladies on the stage are doing there, that are just having so much fun and they leave me with a big smile on my face. I want to do that too. I want to make people feel very special when they come to my classes. And that's how it started. So when I go to a class, my main goal is everybody that walks into my room should feel this is the very best decision you could have made, because I'm going to just for the next hour or 30 minutes or 45 minutes, depending on how long the class is, I want that this is you time and that you feel you're doing something great for yourself and you leave with a smile on your face and you feel like, yeah, I got that fuel, that energy that really gets me through it. And I think with that idea, because I always want to inspire people that wellness is important, it's not just to step on a scale and see the number change, but it's much more about the mindset, the mental wellness, that it's so important to interact with others, to do something for yourself, to listen to the music, to feel what your body can do. It's all about that. And I think that's really the greater prevention for my burnout, really, because I focus so much on the people and what I do that I don't even think about my work in that context at all anymore. That it's like it's like a jukebox. It's a different song that's playing. All right, so now I'm a fitness instructor, and then I come home and I'm a mom, and then later on, a podcast recorder. So my jukebox approach.
Yeah.
Because I compartmentalize everything. And I need to be very, very honest and strict about creating those boundaries to prevent burnout.
Okay. You've done so much. Your top 1% podcast, top 1% in Amazon sales. You've teach thousands of people, and you've done this with very, very small steps, petite steps. And you stay connected with the people that are closest to you. What are some of the last things that you feel that what you want to leave women with, and how do they get a hold of you so you can help them with the transformations?
Yeah, I would love to help people reach their goals. That's my main message. Whatever you have on your bucket list, let's get that out and let's get started. And you can reach out. My website is called drchristiane.com. And I would love to help you in master your goals or discover your superpower, to come back to the titles of my books. And of course, check out my podcast, Happy, Healthy Hustle. A super fun environment, short, bubbly, entertaining. I have a lot of people that tune in from all over the world, and they say that they always look forward to when the new episodes drop, because it's always making them smile and laugh. And I think that the best practice, to use that word right now, is just to get started small and let's start connecting and let's build that community right there. So I would love to build that bridge with you. Thank you.
I thank you so much for being on, for sharing your wisdom with us. More importantly, I really appreciate your energy. It's just so positive. And it's like, come on, everybody. It's just whatever's stopping you, just push it out of the way. Let's go.
And that's what my students always say. They always say, when I think of you, I'm like, let's do it.
Okay, everyone, let's just do it. Thank you so much. I hope this episode has resonated with you. Here's what I want you to take away. Burnout doesn't usually come from doing too much. It comes from carrying too much that was never actually yours to carry. And what we talk about today, these small, consistent steps, petite practice, they only work when you're applying them to the right things. Because if you're consistently taking action on things that don't belong to you, other people's emotions, other people's responsibilities, unclear expectations, you don't build momentum. You build exhaustion. And this is where most high-performing women get stuck. From the outside, it looks like leadership. It looks like capability, but underneath, there's this constant mental load, replaying conversations, anticipating problems, holding everything together. That is not a time problem. It's not even an effort problem. It's a responsibility problem. And the first step to doing less is getting clear on what is actually yours. That's exactly why I created the responsibility audit. It's free. It's a simple but powerful tool to help you see where you've been over-caring, what patterns are driving it, and where you can start to shift without dropping what actually matters. Because this work isn't about disengaging. It's about caring precisely so that you can lead, grow, and build momentum without costing you your energy, your sleep, or your peace. You could download the responsibility audit in the show notes. And if you start to see yourself differently as you go through it, that's the point. Until next time, take radical responsibility for your life and watch the ripple effect unfold.